Who is the Buddha in his past life? Why did his disciples fall into hell? Who was the Buddha in his past life? One day on Vulture Peak in the city of Rajagriha, the Buddha told his disciples a story about the Phoenix King. He slowly recounted. Long ago, there was a Phoenix King who lived happily with his 500 beautiful young wives. He believed that his luxurious life would always continue smoothly, but one day, while flying over the old forest, he saw a beautiful female phoenix with sky-blue feathers gracefully gliding and singing melodiously. Her majestic beauty captivated the Phoenix King, filling him with a passionate love. He abandoned his 500 beautiful wives to follow his newfound love and live with the beautiful phoenix. Contrary to his 500 virtuous wives at home, this beautiful young phoenix was picky about food and accommodations and demanded to be pampered. The Phoenix King had to do everything to please her. Therefore, he had to fly around daily to find the sweetest fruits to bring back for his lover. At that time, in the city of Rajagriha, the queen contracted a strange illness. The king invited all the renowned physicians in the kingdom to diagnose and prescribe medicine, but her condition did not improve. One day, the queen fell into a delirious sleep and had a dream. In the dream, someone told her that her illness could only be cured by eating the flesh of the Phoenix King, or else she would die. When she woke up, she tearfully told the king. The king became worried and summoned his ministers to discuss the matter, then issued an order throughout the kingdom. Anyone who could capture the Phoenix King and present it to him would be rewarded with 1,000 pieces of gold and marry the princess. As soon as the king's order was issued, hunters flocked to the mountains and forests to capture the Phoenix King. They searched tirelessly day and night, ready to cross streams, climb mountains, and traverse seas, employing every method to catch this elusive creature. The Phoenix King was a highly intelligent bird, so ordinary people could not easily find it. However, this time the Phoenix King was lost in a romantic dream, spending his days searching for sweet fruits for his beloved, thus lowering his guard. Not long after, an experienced hunter tracked him and his lover. The hunter knew that the Phoenix King was the ruler of all birds and would not be easy to capture. After many days of contemplation, he devised a clever plan. He covered himself with honey mixed with bread and attached various sweet fruits to his body, turning himself into a mountain of fruit. He then sat motionless on a tree branch, patiently waiting. One early morning, as the sun rose and the birds left their nest to find food, the Phoenix King went in search of fruits for his lover. As he flew over the old forest, he smelled a sweet fragrance in the air and followed it to its source. Circling above, he saw a pile of fragrant ripe fruits on a large tree. Overjoyed, he thought, "How lucky, so many fruits. Now I no longer have to tirelessly search for fruits for my beloved every day." The Phoenix King quickly landed on the tree and perched on the pile of fruits, exactly where the hunter was camouflaged. But as soon as he grabbed a fruit, his feet became stuck and he couldn't pull them free. The hunter seized the opportunity and grabbed him with both hands. The Phoenix King, terrified, struggled and pleaded, "You must have endured such hardship sitting still like this to achieve something great. If you release me, I will show you a mountain of gold where you will become wealthy, a millionaire. My life is insignificant. Please have mercy and spare me." The hunter replied, "How can it be insignificant? The king has promised 1,000 pieces of gold and the princess's hand in marriage to anyone who captures you. How can your mountain of gold compare to the princess?" With that, the hunter joyfully tied up the Phoenix King and brought him to the king. The king, overjoyed, ordered the bird's flesh to be made into medicine for the queen. The Phoenix King said, "Your Majesty, if it is only to save the queen's life, I would not regret sacrificing myself. But I have a magical power that can cure the queen without her needing to eat my flesh. If you trust me, please bring a basin of water. I will recite a magical incantation over the water, and the queen will be healed by drinking and bathing in it. If it doesn't work, I will willingly accept death. But if the queen is cured, please let me return to the forest." The king, surprised, agreed and ordered a basin of water. As the Phoenix King recited the incantation, the queen drank and bathed in the water and miraculously became healthier and more beautiful than before. The news of the queen's recovery spread quickly, filling the kingdom with joy. The king, delighted and impressed by the Phoenix King's abilities, wanted to keep him in the palace. But honoring his promise, he reluctantly let the Phoenix King go. Before leaving the palace for the forest, the Phoenix King asked the king for permission to bless the Crescent Moon Lake with his magic incantation so that anyone in the kingdom who drank from the lake would be healed. The king gladly agreed. The Crescent Moon Lake became a magical medicine, and the news spread far and wide. The Phoenix King did not leave immediately, but perched on the palace roof to bid farewell to the king and the royal court one last time. From the roof, he proclaimed loudly, "There are 3 fools in this world. The first is me, the second is the hunter, and the third is your majesty." Seeing the king and the entire court in bewilderment, the Phoenix King continued, "As the saying goes, beauty is not a sword, but can still take lives. As the king of phoenixes, the sky and the water were my kingdom where I roamed freely. But enchanted by the beauty of my lover, I abandoned my 500 loyal wives who cared for me day and night. Because of my infatuation, I searched daily for food for a single beautiful phoenix, only to fall into the hunter's trap and nearly lose my life. That makes me the first fool." The hunter, despite my offer of a mountain of gold in exchange for my life, was so eager to marry the princess that he refused. No matter how beautiful the princess is, she is nothing more than a fleeting illusion. The grand career of a man can be ruined in an instant by beauty. The hunter, in his dream of marrying the princess, lost the mountain of gold, his wealth, and now even the princess. That makes him the second fool. As for your majesty, you were willing to kill anyone, even the Phoenix King, to make the queen happy. But killing a Phoenix King brings boundless karma. If I did not have my magic incantation, my head would have been severed, and I would have ended up in the queen's stomach. Your majesty would never be able to repay the karma accrued from killing me. Does that not make your majesty the third fool?" After finishing his story, the Phoenix King soared into the clear blue sky. The Buddha then addressed the assembly, saying, "The hunter in the story was the previous life of Devadatta, my cousin in this life. The queen who wanted to eat the Phoenix King was the previous life of Devadatta's wife today. The king at that time was the previous life of Shariputra, who is now the wisest disciple in the Sangha. As for the Phoenix King, it was my past life. You see, merely due to infatuation with beauty, I had to suffer the life of a phoenix. If it weren't for the vow to practice the Bodhisattva path, cultivate the Buddha Dharma, and vow to compassionately save all beings, there would be no Tathagata today. Therefore, people will remain trapped in the 6 realms of samsara, and only the Buddha Dharma is the sole path for a being to ascend. Why did the highly proficient disciples of Buddha Shakyamuni end up in hell? Our understanding of renunciation is that it refers to leaving worldly life, abandoning family and social careers, and entering a monastery or deep mountains to practice. The goal is to achieve liberation or perfection. In principle, a renunciate must abandon their worldly possessions. However, a recent land transaction in China involving the Shaolin Temple revealed the immense financial resources of the temple. According to local reports, a commercial plot in Zhengzhou, Henan province, was sold for 452 million yuan, about $68 million. One of the stakeholders of the winning bidder was the abbot of the Shaolin Temple in Songshan, Henan province. This abbot also holds an MBA, Master of Business Administration. It is known that since 2018, this abbot has been referred to as the monk tycoon in the area. Some media outlets even revealed that the prayer beads he wears are very expensive. These beads are called Jing Shui Jin Fa, where Jin Fa refers to a high-grade amber with a golden hue, and Jing Shui Jin Fa is a top-grade amber, clear and less impure. The prayer beads worn by the abbot are estimated to be made of 100 precious Jin Fa beads, which are extremely luxurious. In fact, during the time of Buddha Shakyamuni, there was also a person from a noble family who expressed his desire to renounce the world to Buddha Shakyamuni. He still wore gold and jewels. This person was Devadatta. Throughout Buddhist history, the name Devadatta has always been synonymous with evil. Thus, he is harshly condemned in Buddhist circles. So who was Devadatta, and what great crimes did he commit? Right after this, my duck invites you to join us in exploring Devadatta was the cousin of Buddha Shakyamuni and also a prince, naturally of noble status. He was tall and handsome. One day he, along with his younger brother Ananda and others, came to Buddha Shakyamuni to ask for ordination, becoming disciples of the Buddha. At that time, Devadatta told most of his companions that he was a member of the royal family and now wanted to renounce worldly wealth and glory to practice. But he wore the most luxurious clothes and jewelry. On the way to ordination, he used the most luxurious elephants and horse carriages. While saying he wanted to abandon worldly wealth and glory, his actions seemed to be telling everyone that he was the richest and most powerful prince going to ordain. After ordaining, Devadatta performed very well for the first 12 years and even possessed great supernatural powers. Given Devadatta's noble status before ordination, being a relative of Buddha Shakyamuni and also a prince, along with his good performance and great supernatural powers, many lay people and even some monks blindly worshipped him. Even Prince Ajatashatru of Magadha admired and worshipped Devadatta, offering him 500 portions of fine food daily. Gradually, Devadatta could not withstand the countless praises and admiration from the crowd. The desire for fame and fortune began to erode his resolve to practice. He began to see himself in a high position, even comparing himself to the Buddha. Surrounded by people, he felt no different from Buddha Shakyamuni. At this point, jealousy began to sprout within him. One day, Devadatta went to Buddha Shakyamuni and said that Buddha Shakyamuni was getting old. He suggested that the Buddha hand over the leadership of the Sangha to him. But Buddha Shakyamuni sternly refused because he saw that pride had arisen in Devadatta's heart. Thus, the Buddha declared that from now on, Devadatta would be responsible for everything he did in the name of the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha, and Shakyamuni would not recognize it. Despite this, many of the Buddha's disciples still revered Devadatta, and some even thought that Buddha Shakyamuni's words were out of jealousy towards Devadatta. With the crowd's praise, Devadatta became increasingly arrogant and even harbored intentions to kill Buddha Shakyamuni. Eventually, he committed the 5 heinous crimes. The 5 heinous crimes in Buddhism are the most serious offenses: killing one's father, killing one's mother, killing an arhat, a liberated person, wounding a Buddha, even a small injury is severe, and causing schism in the Sangha, causing discord in a practicing community to the point that it breaks apart and members cannot practice together. Devadatta repeatedly sent people to assassinate Buddha Shakyamuni. However, those sent to kill the Buddha were ultimately converted by him. When the plan to send people to harm the Buddha failed, Devadatta turned to using animals. He intoxicated a fierce elephant and released it when Buddha Shakyamuni was entering the city for alms. Some monks fled in fear, while others risked their lives to protect their master. However, an astonishing scene occurred. The elephant, upon reaching Buddha Shakyamuni, stopped, knelt, and used its trunk to lick the Buddha's feet. Even the fierce elephant was converted by Buddha Shakyamuni. Devadatta, still unwilling to repent, tried to roll a large rock down to crush Buddha Shakyamuni. Although unsuccessful, the rock injured the Buddha's foot and caused bleeding, committing one of the 5 heinous crimes by wounding a Buddha. One of Buddha Shakyamuni's female disciples, Utpalavarna, tried to persuade Devadatta to repent and return to the right path. Unexpectedly, Devadatta beat her to death, committing another heinous crime by killing an arhat. Here, one might wonder why such an event occurred and whether the monks also had doubts. Moreover, Utpalavarna was the most spiritually powerful disciple. Could she not save herself? Buddha Shakyamuni told his disciples that this tragedy did not happen just once. It had occurred in the past. In a previous life, Devadatta was a fierce wolf and Utpalavarna was a mother goat. At that time, the goat was killed by the wolf. This time, it was due to the ripening of past karma that history repeated itself. Moreover, to satisfy his sinful desires, Devadatta proclaimed himself a great teacher and proposed many seemingly legitimate things. Some newly ordained monks, lacking deep understanding of the Dharma, sided with Devadatta. However, Buddha Shakyamuni, out of compassion, sent his disciples to persuade them. These monks returned to the Dharma and repented before Buddha Shakyamuni. Finally, all of Devadatta's evil plans failed. The karma clung to him, creating a huge chasm in the ground where he stood. Thus Devadatta was cast into Avicii hell, the hell of incessant suffering. He was destined to die in immense pain and grievous sin. The term Avicii hell originates from scriptures such as the Lotus Sutra, the Abhidharma-kosa, and the Buddhist texts of phonetic explanations. Those condemned to Avicii hell are the most malevolent individuals, those who have committed the gravest sins. Being sent to Avicii hell means there is no hope of liberation, only enduring endless suffering. Devadatta, once a well-behaved disciple of the Buddha, highly esteemed, fell into degradation, becoming a great evil figure, and was ultimately cast into hell. This serves as a profound lesson for humanity. Buddha Shakyamuni said that if Prince Ajatashatru of Magadha had not offered 500 portions of fine food, Devadatta might not have committed such terrible deeds. It was the blind admiration and praise of those around him that inflated Devadatta's ego, leading him to his downfall into hell. Historically, there have been figures like Devadatta who persecuted the Buddhas and their disciples, although the manifestations of this persecution have changed with the times and society. Who were the chief disciples of the Buddha? What were their abilities and virtues? Many temples enshrine Buddha Shakyamuni along with his 10 great disciples. Here's a brief summary of these great disciples' lives. 1. Mahakassapa. The foremost in ascetic practices, Mahakassapa was known for his dedication to ascetic practices and was a central figure in the first Buddhist council, where the Buddha's teachings were compiled. His full name is Mahakassapa. He was born in Mahabala village near Rajagaha in central India. His father was a wealthy Brahmin. His parents, after years of being childless, prayed for a child under a Bodhi tree, and soon after, Mahakassapa was born. He was given the childhood name Pippalayanar and had 32 auspicious marks, behaving differently from ordinary children. At the age of 8, he was initiated into Brahmin practices and quickly mastered them. Upon hearing about the Buddha, he sought him out and joined the Sangha. His wife, Bhadra Kapilani, also became a nun. Known for his contentment and dedication to practice, he was titled the foremost ascetic. When the Buddha passed away, Mahakassapa was traveling in the far north. Upon hearing the sad news, he traveled day and night to return. To Ananda, the foremost in learning, Ananda, also known as Anan or Nandar, was born in Kapilavastu and was the younger brother of Devadatta. He was the son of King Amartodana and a cousin of Buddha Shakyamuni. Under the guidance of Mahakassapa, he practiced diligently and attained enlightenment. At the age of 55, Ananda became the Buddha's attendant and served him for 25 years. When the Buddha passed away, Ananda and Anuruddha were by his side providing care. Known for his extensive learning and excellent memory, Ananda was called the foremost in learning. During the Great Council, most of the scriptures were based on his memory. Ananda was compassionate, gentle, and handsome, often admired by women, which led to several difficulties. 20 years after the Buddha's passing, sensing his own end approaching, Ananda gathered 500 monks by the Ganges, delivered his final teachings, and peacefully passed away at the age of 120. His relics were buried near the Bamboo Grove Monastery in Rajagaha. 3. Sariputra, the foremost in wisdom. Sariputra, originally named Upatisar, was known for his wisdom. According to the Mahaprajnaparamita Sastra, the name Sariputra means son of Sari because his mother's eyes resembled those of the Sari bird. Educated by his erudite father and wise mother, Sariputra became proficient in various arts. Along with his friend Madhgalyanar, he had many disciples and a significant following. One day, he met the monk Asaji, learned about Buddha Shakyamuni, and immediately felt admiration, leading over 350 disciples to the Bamboo Grove Monastery to take refuge and receive full ordination. All 6 of his siblings also became disciples of the Buddha. The Buddha praised Sariputra's wisdom and leadership, calling him the foremost in wisdom. Sariputra passed away before the Buddha. Sensing his end, he returned to his hometown, sat calmly, and entered nirvana. It is said that he later became known as Huashan Buddha and returned to benefit all beings. 4. Subhuti, the foremost in understanding emptiness. Subhuti, meaning good fortune, non-arising, was born in Savatthi and was the younger brother of Anathapindika. His father was a wealthy merchant named Sumana. According to the Vimalakirti Sutra, when Subhuti was born, his house was empty, hence his name non-arising. This startled his family, who invited a fortune teller, who declared the child as auspicious and named him Subhuti. Naturally compassionate and kind, Subhuti was uninterested in disputes. He ordained and became renowned for his practice of non-contention and benevolent acts. He was called Good Deeds. Later, he sought refuge in the Buddha, often meditating on emptiness, becoming one of the Buddha's 10 great disciples, known as the foremost in understanding emptiness. The Prajnaparamita texts regard him as a patriarch. 5. Purna, the foremost in preaching. Purna, also known as full-intentioned compassion or satisfied compassion, was born in Labhaga village near Kapilavastu. He was the son of a wealthy merchant and the nephew of Ashvaghosha. His father was the chief minister to King Suddhodana, highly respected. Despite being belittled by his elder brother and sold to a lowly merchant, Purna remained devoted to the Buddha, donating his wealth to build monasteries and vowed to follow the Buddha's teachings. Skilled in preaching and debate, Purna was known as the foremost preacher. Later, he established 500 monasteries in Sarana, training 500 disciples, significantly contributing to the propagation of Buddhism. 6. Mahamudgayana, the foremost in supernatural powers, commonly known as Moggallana. His name means Great Wood Clan or Great Bean. According to legend, his ancestors lived peacefully in the mountains, often eating green beans, hence their surname. Moggallana's mother belonged to this clan. He was originally named Kalida, born in Kalida village north of Rajagaha. His father was the king's chief minister. From a young age, he was close friends with Sariputra, with whom he resolved to leave worldly life and seek the path. Moggallana was renowned for his supernatural powers, enabling him to discover his mother suffering in hell. He sought the Buddha's guidance to save her, ultimately rescuing her, earning him the reputation of great filial piety known to this day. Due to resentment from non-Buddhists in Tran, Moggallana was ambushed and killed on Mount Isigili. His loss was a great blow to the Buddha's Sangha. 7. Mahakatyayana, the foremost in debates. Mahakatyayana, whose Sanskrit name means great wisdom, was also known as Hao Kian. His original name was Nanadada, and he was the son of a wealthy man from the region of Avanti. His father was a renowned legal scholar. Following in his father's footsteps, Mahakatyayana became a wise and respected noble. After joining Buddha Shakyamuni's monastic community, he demonstrated his exceptional talent and was highly praised for his debating skills, earning great respect from all. After Buddha Shakyamuni's birth, King Suddhodana invited the sage Asita from Mount Dundabika to the palace to predict the prince's future. Asita was Mahakatyayana's uncle. From a young age, Mahakatyayana learned spiritual practices from his uncle. Later, he went to Deer Park and took refuge with the Buddha. After attaining enlightenment, he devoted himself to spreading the Buddha's teachings in rural areas and was regarded as the founder of the Bariya monastery. 8. Aniruddha, the foremost in divine vision. Aniruddha, originally named Anialoda, was the son of King Amartadana and a cousin of Buddha Shakyamuni. He was known for his intelligence and quick wit. From a young age, it was evident that he would become a great talent in Kapilavastu. After hearing Buddha's teachings, he decided to renounce worldly life and requested to join the Buddha's disciples. One day, he was reprimanded by the Buddha for dozing off during a teaching. Aniruddha then vowed to wear only patched robes and never sleep. This caused him to go blind, but his unwavering determination was greatly admired. Later, he gained supernatural powers and was praised as the foremost in divine vision, becoming one of the leading monks. When the Buddha entered nirvana, Aniruddha attended to him and participated in the first council to compile the scriptures, contributing significantly. 9. Upali, the foremost in discipline. Upali, whose Sanskrit name means close guard or close adherence, was from the lowly barber caste in Rajagaha. Initially, he worked as a barber but was known for his honesty and diligence, earning the trust of officials and royalty. Later, he joined the Buddha along with the noblemen of the Shakya clan. The Buddha first imparted the precepts to Upali. His deep understanding of discipline enabled him to resolve many complex issues within the monastic community, earning him the title of the foremost in discipline. After the Buddha's passing, Upali took on the most challenging task of compiling the Vinaya, disciplinary texts, successfully completing this monumental work. 10. Rahula, the foremost in secret practices. Rahula was the son of Buddha Shakyamuni and Yasodhara. According to legend, he stayed in his mother's womb for 6 years, hence the name Rahula, which means obstacle or fetter. It is also said that Rahula was born on the day of a solar eclipse, which is another reason for his name. 3 years after Buddha's enlightenment, he ordered Sariputra and Maudgalyayana to encourage Rahula to ordain. Rahula accepted Sariputra as his teacher and joined the monastic community. Through diligent practice and the Buddha's guidance, Rahula vowed to strictly adhere to the precepts and assist in practicing the path, earning him the title of the foremost in secret practices, living up to his father's expectations. A buffalo took 3 lives in one day. Buddha explains the cause to warn the world. A buffalo inexplicably went berserk and killed 3 people in 3 different locations in one day. Even after the buffalo was slaughtered and its head severed, it mysteriously managed to kill the final victim. Why did this buffalo display such aggressive behavior? Today, let's listen to Buddha's explanation with my duck. During Buddha Shakyamuni's time in Rajagaha, there was a merchant named Fat Kasar who wanted to buy goods early in the morning and headed to Lavi city. Upon reaching the city gate, he was gored to death by a buffalo. The buffalo's owner, fearing future trouble from keeping the aggressive animal, sold it at a low price. The new owner led the buffalo home and, while crossing a river, tried to let it drink water. Instead, the buffalo's fierce nature emerged and it gored the new owner to death. The victim's family, enraged, killed the buffalo and sold its meat at the market. A farmer, tempted by the cheap price, bought the buffalo's head, tied its horns with a rope, and carried it home. In the tropical heat of India, the farmer grew hot and thirsty, hung the buffalo's head on a tree, and rested in its shade. Strangely, the rope snapped, and the buffalo's head fell, killing the farmer instantly. Within a single day, the buffalo had caused the deaths of 3 people. King Bimbisara, intrigued by this unusual occurrence, knew there must be a reason behind it. He and his ministers brought offerings to Vulture Peak Mountain to seek Buddha's insight. Buddha told King Bimbisara, in a past life, 3 merchants went to a neighboring country for trade. To save money, they rented a room from an old woman instead of staying at a hotel. After agreeing on a price, they stayed overnight. The next morning, while the old woman was away, they left without paying. Upon returning and discovering their departure, the old woman was furious and chased after them to collect the rent. Catching up with the one carrying the heavy load, she was insulted and humiliated by him. Unable to do anything, she vowed, "You are all scoundrels, taking advantage of my old age. Your actions will be repaid. In my next life, whether I am reborn as a human or not, I will seek revenge and kill all 3 of you." The Buddha explained that the aggressive buffalo was the reincarnation of the old woman, and the 3 merchants who had insulted her were the victims in this life. The story highlights the law of karma, showing how past actions lead to present consequences. It also emphasizes the dangers of harboring resentment, as the old woman's vow led to further suffering in her next life. The Buddha often reminded us to be mindful of our speech and actions, as harmful intentions can lead to negative outcomes. The story illustrates that a single moment of anger can create a cycle of revenge, perpetuating suffering for all involved. The Buddha's teachings encourage us to respond to adversity with compassion and patience, transforming negative situations into opportunities for growth and positive change. By cultivating a kind and forgiving heart, we can break the cycle of karma and achieve peace and happiness. Evil deeds can bring retribution back on the doer. If you harbor ill intentions towards people or animals, you will be the first to suffer, as the old woman in the story lost her human form. Therefore, the Buddha often advised us to be careful with our words and always reminded us that disaster lies at the tip of the tongue. We need to be cautious in our speech and actions, control our minds, and guard our mouths. Do not harbor evil intentions or speak slanderous or harmful words. Good and evil arise in a single thought, and blessings and misfortunes follow like a shadow. In life, we may encounter adversities or negative situations. People may insult us, deceive us, or even betray, slander, and harm us. In such moments, if we maintain a compassionate heart, even if others harbor ill will towards us, we will not be angered. Instead, we should use patience, remain unmoved by circumstances, and respond to everything with good intentions. This will surely lead to positive results and good fortune. A pregnant woman murdered in Saigon seeks vengeance through a security guard's dream. Below is a true story about a woman who was unjustly killed and returned to haunt a security guard in his dreams for vengeance. This account was narrated by Mr. Nguyen Thanh Tuyen, the former chief medical examiner of Saigon. Shortly after taking over his job, Mr. Hot, the head of security at the Minh Dong flour mill in District 6, Saigon, experienced a strange dream. Every night, in his dreams, Mr. Hot saw a petite woman dressed in a white shirt and black pants, who approached him to talk. In their conversations, the woman expressed a craving for boiled peanuts and asked him to offer them for a while. Then, on a hot, restless night, Mr. Hot had another dream, where the woman in white and black appeared again, this time asking him for a different favor: to move her house because it was too hot where she was. In his dream, Mr. Hot replied, "How would I know where your house is to help you move?" To his surprise, the woman answered, "My house is the oil drum with the life plant on the rooftop of this building. Go and see for yourself." Despite never having sleepwalked before, in this dream, Mr. Hot found himself sleepwalking. He got out of bed, walked to the stairs, and climbed to the rooftop. He only woke up when he bumped hard against the closed rooftop door and realized he had been led there by the woman in his dream. Being a brave man, the next morning, Mr. Hot unlocked the rooftop door to find the oil drum with the life plant, exactly as described in the dream. Indeed, he found a large oil drum filled with soil and planted with a life plant in the sunniest spot on the rooftop. A few shovels into the soil, Mr. Hot discovered human bones buried inside. Upon receiving Mr. Hot's information about a corpse buried in the oil drum, the District 6 police launched an investigation. The autopsy revealed that the victim was a pregnant woman wearing black pants and a white shirt, matching the description of the woman in Mr. Hot's dream. The final investigation report identified the victim as Nguyen Thị Mo, who had previously dated Mr. Nguyen Thanh B, the deputy chairman of the ward. The ward office had been located where the flour mill now stands. Before dating Mo, Mr. B had a girlfriend in Bến Tre. However, because of the distance, when he met Mo and found her attractive, he decided to date her to fill the void and ease his loneliness. But after some time, Mo announced her pregnancy and urged him to marry her. Naturally, B could not marry Mo because he had already set a wedding date with his girlfriend in Bến Tre. Fearing Mo might cause a scandal and jeopardize his position, he devised a plan to kill her and eliminate the problem. That spring, during a tree planting campaign, in his role as the ward chairman, B ordered his subordinates to bring a large oil drum filled with soil to the rooftop of the office to plant a life plant, claiming the plant needed lots of sunlight and instructing that the drum be placed in the sunniest spot on the rooftop. He hoped the sun's heat would hasten the decomposition of the body buried in the drum. With everything arranged that evening, B invited Mo to the office to talk. Mo, dressed in her black pants and white shirt, eagerly anticipating their future together, unsuspectingly went to meet him. Taking advantage of a moment when Mo was off guard, B murdered her and brought her body to the rooftop, placing it in the oil drum in a seated position before filling the drum with soil and planting the life plant on top. However, no matter how well one tries to hide a crime, it will eventually be exposed. Ultimately, B confessed to his crime. Now, reflecting on the dream of the pregnant woman seeking vengeance, even after nearly 40 years, Mr. Nguyen Thanh Tuyen still feels a mix of emotions. He said, "The strange events described were outside the case file and cannot be explained. However, life indeed works on a system of cause and effect. The net of heaven is vast and sparse, but it does not miss anything. If in life there truly is an afterlife, a cycle of reincarnation, then each human life is but a day, and the next life is just another day. Waking up with peace and good intentions, living for others, is the most precious thing. Struggling, scheming, and plotting bring no real benefits in this long journey of life, but lead only to immense suffering in repaying karmic debts." Origin of the Vu Lan festival and why the pardoning of lost souls occurs on the full moon day of the 7th month. People often say, The full moon of the 7th month is the day for pardoning lost souls. This tradition originates from a Buddhist story about the Venerable Mukien Lian, Modgalyayana, saving his mother. Before becoming a monk, Mukien Lian was a devoted and filial son, dutifully caring for his parents. His mother, however, insisted on having meat in all 3 of her daily meals. Despite Mukien Lian's frequent advice to avoid sinful acts, his mother would secretly kill livestock to eat. As a result, she accrued heavy negative karma. After her death, Mukien Lian's mother was condemned to the Avishi hell. Upon ordaining and practicing diligently under the Buddha's guidance, Mukien Lian quickly attained the status of an arhat and became known as the foremost disciple in supernatural powers. During the retreat period in the 7th month, one day, while preparing for meditation, Mukien Lian remembered his mother and her past deeds. Worried about her fate, he entered deep meditation to locate her and found himself in the terrifying Avichi hell. There he saw the famished ghosts with bloated bellies, thin necks, and limbs like dry branches, all crying out in hunger. Among them, he recognized his mother, suffering the same fate. Despite his great supernatural powers, Mukien Lian was powerless against his mother's severe karma. Moved by her suffering, he offered her a bowl of rice and a pitcher of water. Overjoyed, she eagerly took the offerings, but as she brought them to her mouth, flames erupted, turning the food to ash and the water to steam. Witnessing this, Mukien Lian felt helpless sorrow, realizing that even his extraordinary abilities could not alleviate his mother's suffering due to her deep-rooted karma. Upon emerging from his meditation, he hurried to seek guidance from the Buddha. Prostrating respectfully, he asked, "Venerable Sir, I am deeply distressed. What karma has my mother accumulated, and how can I save her?" The Buddha replied, "The karmic consequences of all beings are indeed their own doing. Your mother in her lifetime accumulated negative karma through greed, anger, and delusion. Karma created by oneself must be borne by oneself. This karmic burden is as immense as Mount Sumeru, and no one can relieve it." Feeling despondent but still determined, Venerable Modgalyayan implored the Buddha for a way to save his mother. His filial piety moved the Buddha, who then said, "To save your mother, your supernatural powers alone are insufficient due to her heavy karmic burden. It requires the collective pure merits of many enlightened monks. Together, their focused effort can help your mother." Venerable Modgalyayana asked, "Where can I find so many pure and meritorious individuals?" The Buddha answered, "This is not difficult. From the 4th lunar month to July, many pure-hearted monks abandon distractions and increase their wisdom. During this period, they discover the truth and penetrate profound teachings. These monks possess the most abundant pure merits. If you can invite them to join their hearts in efforts to bless your mother, she can be saved." The Buddha also instructed, "You should also create merits for your mother. On the 15th day of the 7th lunar month, which marks the end of the retreat season, offer a grand meal to the Sonder, creating good connections with everyone. With a pure heart and joy, collectively bless your mother. This will generate a significant force capable of dissolving her karmic obstacles." On the 15th day of the 7th lunar month, Venerable Modgalyayana prepared an elaborate vegetarian feast, offered with the utmost sincerity. The offering was exceedingly virtuous and solemn. Afterward, everyone united in mind and intention to bless his mother. Because of their diligent cultivation and abundant virtues, the blessings accumulated with immense joy and spiritual support. The power was indeed formidable. On the first night of the offering, while in meditation, Venerable Modgalyayana saw a radiant celestial being approaching from afar. Upon closer look, he realized it was his mother. She thanked him, saying, "Thanks to your meditative power and filial piety, the compassionate vow power of the venerable monks, and the compassionate blessings of the Buddha, I have escaped the realm of hungry ghosts and have been reborn in heaven." Seeing his mother ascend from hell to heaven during his meditation filled Venerable Modgalyayana with profound gratitude. His deep filial piety, combined with the compassion of sentient beings and the pure wisdom and merits of the Sonder, had saved his mother. From that time onwards, people began to celebrate the Ulambana festival, offering vegetarian meals to the Sonder. Over time, The Ulambana festival in Buddhism evolved into a major event commemorating Venerable Maud Galiana's filial piety. Each year, Buddhists hold grand Ulambana ceremonies. Today, it is known as the Festival of Hungry Ghosts or the Zhongyuan Festival. Good and evil deeds have their recompenses, as the eyes of the gods are as bright as lightning. The story of Maud Galiana saving his mother not only explains the origin of the Ulambana festival, but also imparts a universal cultural lesson. Actions have consequences. The karma created by oneself must be borne by oneself. Even with great supernatural powers like Maud Galiana, one cannot bear another's karmic burden. Thus, whether it is the karma of parents or friends, the creator of the karma must endure the consequences and rectify their actions towards goodness to hope for liberation from suffering. Maud Galiana's mother, deeply entrenched in negative karma during her life, could not let go of her selfish desires even in hell. This compounded her suffering. Why did the food turn into flames when it reached her mouth? The ancients said, "Whispered words among people, the heavens hear like thunder. Dark rooms conceal nothing from divine sight." Indeed, the thoughts in one's heart are not hidden from the eyes of the gods. A bit of selfish intent is known to the gods. A bit of pure intention is also evident to the gods. Therefore, even a ghost in hell, if harboring malicious, narrow-minded thoughts, must continue to suffer to repay their karmic debt. With compassion permeating the heavens and earth, the 15th day of the 7th lunar month is considered a day of forgiveness for the deceased and a time for descendants to honor their ancestors. Most importantly, it reminds future generations that the law of cause and effect is an immutable universal truth. Cultivation is self-driven. Each person's karma must be borne by themselves, and one cannot rely on the supernatural abilities of others to repay their debts. Finally, the story also illustrates the miraculous power of compassion. When pure intentions converge across the world, they create a compassionate energy field that can move heaven and earth and save this world. Why people forget their past lives, according to the Buddha. One day, while resting under an ancient tree outside the city of Rajagriha, the Buddha and his disciples were contemplating. A newly ordained monk named Kian Chan was pondering a question. The Buddha explained that all beings have past lives, but why do they not remember them? Understanding Kian Chan's thoughts before he could voice his question, the Buddha enlightened his disciples. Reincarnation and past lives are mysteries that science has yet to explain. Regarding spiritual phenomena that cannot be elucidated by common definitions, before delving into what the Buddha revealed, let us explore a modern case. An Oxford-educated monk explains the invisible realm. In the famous book Journey to the East, author Nguyen Phong tells the story of Harmut, a learned monk knowledgeable about the invisible realm. Harmut was not Indian but Egyptian, living alone in a small house built into a cliff. When a delegation of top scientists from the Royal Society of London was sent to India to study the mysticism and supernatural abilities of humans, they witnessed profound insights into ancient and esoteric sciences, such as yoga, meditation, karma, the law of cause and effect, and the realms of life and death. This time they met Professor Harmut, an expert on the invisible realm. Harmut revealed that not only do spirits exist, but they are also his subjects of study. Professor Montaigne impatiently asked, "If you study the invisible realm, can you explain the concepts of heaven, hell, and life after death?" The monk solemnly replied, "Different vibrations correspond to different realms. This is simply the phenomenon of like attracting like. When one dies, the composition of the subtle body rearranges itself. The lighter layers are inside, and the heavier ones form the outer shell. This is like wearing multiple layers of clothing in winter. The inner layers are thin, while the outer ones are thick. In the 7 realms of the underworld, the 7th realm has the heaviest and darkest vibrations. It is the abode of malevolent spirits, murderers, butchers, social outcasts, and those with vile thoughts. In the underworld, appearances change according to one's thoughts, so those with strong animalistic tendencies often take on terrifying forms. The uninformed might call them demons or hungry ghosts lurking around taverns, slaughterhouses, seeking material pleasures. Those who died from sexual desires wander around brothels, resonating with the pleasures of the living and seeking to influence them. If someone consumes alcohol or drugs, in the moment they lose control, spirits may briefly possess them to indulge in leftover material pleasures. Harmut explained that a person with a pure and virtuous life would not linger in the spirit world but awaken in a corresponding realm. According to their thoughts and actions on earth, they will find themselves in a matching realm after death. This is the law of like attracts like. The entire delegation was silent, pondering the monk's scientifically precise terminology. Though it was an interesting theory, it remained unproven. Could it be a fanciful hypothesis of imaginative people like Asians? Harmut smiled, sensing their thoughts, and asked, "Do you know that I am also a doctor of physics, graduated from Oxford University? I graduated in 1864 and was the first Egyptian to earn this degree." The delegation verified this detail, finding that Oxford's records indeed listed a Dr. Harmut L., an Egyptian who graduated in 1864 with a PhD in physics. They asked, "How did you gain such knowledge of this realm? Did you read books or gather evidence?" Harmut said that even as a student, he was fascinated by metaphysical physics. But science has its limits. His research led him to mysticism. He went to India and Tibet, where he met a lama who specialized in studying the underworld. Afterward, he meditated in seclusion for 10 years, awakening certain special senses. Those who develop spiritual life through practice can also gain understanding of the invisible realm. Returning to the issue that the disciple was concerned about, the Buddha said that everyone has a past life. Yet why do people not remember it? The Buddha enlightened them with profound clarity and wisdom. The seed in the tree. The Buddha said, "Now my disciples, look at this tree. It started as a seed and has now grown into a vast tree. Under the influence of conditions like soil, water, sunlight, and wind, the seed sprouted. The sprout grew into a trunk. The trunk produced branches, and the branches bore leaves, flowers, and fruits. Through many transformations can these roots, trunk, flowers, and fruits return to the original seed." The disciples replied, "No, Venerable Sir, they cannot." The Buddha continued, "After death, the mind follows the good or bad deeds performed during life and moves on to the next life, where it meets new parents, takes on a new form, new habits, and experiences different pleasures and sufferings. Due to these changes, it no longer resembles the previous life. It is like how a tree cannot revert to being a seed." Venerable Kian Chan asked, "Since I was born, I have seen many people die, but why do their minds not return to appear before the living?" The Buddha said, "If one performs good deeds, the mind follows the karma of those good deeds to be reborn and cannot return. When the mind leaves the body, it is like brass that has been forged into iron. The original form is lost and cannot be restored. In this life, if one does good deeds, they will attain a human body in the next life with different parents. The mind encounters 6 types of obstructions. 1. In the afterlife, it cannot return. 2. It enters the womb. 3. Upon leaving the womb, it forgets previous memories. 4. After the first cry at birth, new awareness forms, erasing past memories. 5. Desire for food upon birth causes further memory loss. 6. Growing up and adopting new habits and experiences further obscures past memories." The bright torch in darkness. The Buddha continued, "If the karma created by someone in their life is animal karma, they will naturally follow the form of an animal and cannot return before humans. Just like a cicada nymph living underground, once it molts into a cicada, can it be returned to a nymph? Human birth and death follow this principle. When life ends and the mind leaves the body, it takes on a new form due to different karmic conditions. Just like a cicada on a tree cannot revert to a nymph underground, humans follow the 3 types of karma: body, speech, and mind. After death, the mind can go to a bad realm or hell or take on an animal form. Their sinful karma is like a net capturing their mind. Throughout a lifetime, people experience countless changes and cannot remember all past events. In old age, they cannot recall childhood memories, let alone past lives. The barriers of ignorance and the confines of the womb obscure past lives. People see only the present, parents, relatives, and current events. Thus, they cannot see where they came from in previous lives. Whether they enjoyed blessings or suffer punishment, love or hate each other, these are the karmic results of past good or bad deeds. Without the pure eye of Dharma, one cannot see or know. People walk blindly toward the light, The Buddha asked his disciples, "Imagine a moonless night with 5 objects of different colors placed in the darkness. Would any of the thousands of people called upon to distinguish the colors be able to do so?" The disciples replied, "No, they could not." The Buddha continued, "What if someone brought a torch to illuminate them?" The disciples replied, "With light, people can immediately distinguish the 5 colors." The Buddha said, "If a fool walks away from the light, he will never see the 5 colors." Similarly, people who do not cultivate themselves, go with the flow of worldly desires, and do not practice good deeds, are like fools walking away from the light into darkness, unable to see the truth of life and death. They are like those walking in the dark night with their eyes closed, unable to see anything. People muddled between life and death, bound by misfortune and fortune, happiness and sorrow, cannot remember their past lives, just like walking in the dark with their eyes closed. The Buddha's enlightenment on life in the 3 realms. The Buddha continued, "Now I am a Buddha with a pure wisdom eye. I know all beings in the cycle of birth and death in the 3 realms. Like looking into a clear pond and seeing the bottom, I can see the fish swimming within. Observing birth and death is like watching fish in clear water, unobstructed. It is like standing on a high bridge, watching the continuous flow of people below. With high perspective, I understand the origins of life as clearly as looking down from a mountain, seeing the villages and people below. Due to various obstacles, relying only on the physical eyes, one cannot see the cause and effect of past, present, and future lives. Therefore, some dare to say falsely that there is no karma across 3 lifetimes. Those who have not attained enlightenment often engage in impure deeds and are submerged in the cycle of birth and death. Upon leaving the old body, they are bound by a new body, disturbed by the 4 sufferings of birth, aging, illness, and death. Ultimately, they do not realize that their consciousness is liberated according to the good or bad karma accumulated during their lifetime. Therefore, everyone must diligently observe the precepts, deeply contemplate the matters of birth and death, where they come from and where they go, what causes and reasons propel them. By attaining the pure eye that cuts through delusion, all doubts will naturally be resolved. At this point, the Buddha's words enlightened Ven Qian Chan along with 500 monks and lay people. They all rose, bowed to the Buddha and said, "Only now do we see the majestic and boundless nature of the Dharma." Humans, being in delusion, find it difficult to fully comprehend with mere scientific understanding. What do you all think about today's topic? Please leave your comments below the video so we can share our thoughts. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell to receive updates when the latest videos are posted. Hello everyone. Welcome to Mind Podcast, Buddhism, the best channel for sharing knowledge about Buddhism. Today we will talk about the topic, Buddhism for beginners, plain and simple. In this episode, we will delve into the fundamental position of the Buddha as an enlightened being who has transcended birth and death. We will explore the core Buddhist teachings, including the truths of cause and effect, dependent origination, and the silent truth of emptiness or Buddha nature. We will also discuss the importance of learning Buddhism, progressing on the path of enlightenment, and applying these truths to daily life. Lastly, we will emphasize the significance of practicing Buddhism to achieve peace in the present and future, ultimately attaining liberation and autonomy. Stay tuned as we uncover these essential keys to a deeper appreciation of the value of Buddhism. Buddhism for beginners, plain and simple. Teaching sentient beings to practice and attain Buddhahood is the fundamental intention of all Buddhas. Due to the varying abilities and levels of sentient beings, not everyone can practice the same method and achieve the same results. Therefore, the Buddha had to teach different methods of practice. Generally, these can be divided into 2 types: practicing within samsara, the cycle of birth and death, and practicing to escape from samsara. Practicing within samsara. In the previous sections about the Buddha's teachings, the universal truths of cause and effect and dependent origination were discussed, with karma being the primary driving force behind these principles. Therefore, we speak of karmic results and karmic conditions. Good and bad karma act as causes leading to good and bad results. Karma propels and combines with conditions to generate and grow. When karma is fulfilled and conditions dissipate, the formed body disintegrates. Thus, karma is the driving force within the cycle of samsara. Given the importance of karma, we need to understand what it is. Karma refers to the actions created by sentient beings, stemming from their body, speech, and mind, collectively known as actions. The actions created by sentient beings influence them in return. For example, an artist imagines and paints a beautiful woman. After completing the painting, he admires the beauty of his creation and falls in love with it. Similarly, sentient beings create karma through their body, speech, and mind, and this karma pulls them to experience the results. They experience these results and create more karma, perpetuating the endless cycle. This repetitive cycle driven by karma is called samsara. Talking about karma affirms the power of self-governance. We create karma and experience its results. It is not created by any divine power or enforced by others. Only our actions, repeated over time, form habits that influence us. For instance, no one is addicted to smoking or drinking from birth. These habits develop over time through repeated practice, eventually becoming addictions that control one's life. Sometimes, people wish to quit these addictions but find it challenging to do so. This demonstrates the power of karma. Karma is divided into good and bad, but both keep one within the cycle of samsara. Those who know how to practice should cultivate good karma and abandon bad karma. This allows us to choose a better, more stable samsaric future. In worldly terms, some people seek refined, solitary pleasures like drinking tea, tending to bonsai, or writing poetry. Over time, these become habits, and without them, they feel uneasy, becoming attached to tea and poetry. Others enjoy playing music or chess with a few friends, forming a habit that without it, they also feel uneasy, becoming attached to music and chess. Some prefer the lively pleasures of frequenting restaurants, theaters, and gambling halls, developing habits that make them feel restless without these activities, becoming attached to drinking and gambling. All these habits are developed through practice, not by chance. Among these habits, some are refined and elegant, some are light and cheerful, and some lead to moral decline, all depending on what people choose to practice. We have full control over determining our present and future fates. Karma arises from our body, speech, and mind. In the body, there is killing, stealing, and sexual misconduct. In speech, there is lying, divisive speech, harsh speech, and idle chatter. In the mind, there is delusion, greed, and anger. These seem to be innate bad habits within us. Our existence in this world carries these habits, causing suffering to sentient beings, hence called bad karma. Knowing how to stop these bad habits or transform them into good ones is called knowing how to practice. Practicing to stop karma. In the distant past, without understanding the principles, we indulged our bodies in killing, stealing, and sexual misconduct, causing suffering to sentient beings, which is bad karma of the body. Now, understanding the principles, we stop doing these acts, which is practicing to stop the body's karma. Previously, our speech involved lying, divisive talk, flattering, and harsh words to deceive, divide, seduce, and anger others, causing them suffering, which is bad karma of the speech. Now we stop saying these words, which is practicing to stop the speech's karma. In the past, our mind indulged in delusion, greed, and anger, leading us into wrong paths of suffering and harming others, which is bad karma of the mind. Now, recognizing our mistakes, we force ourselves to stop, which is practicing to stop the mind's karma. Stopping the 3 bad karmas is inherently cultivating the 3 good karmas, since we no longer cause suffering to sentient beings. When we do not create suffering karma for sentient beings, we are not pulled into experiencing bad karma. However, stopping bad karma is only a negative virtue. We need to advance further by cultivating positive virtues to transform karma. Practicing to transform karma. Transforming karma means changing bad karma into good karma. Instead of previously indulging in killing, stealing, and sexual misconduct, now we prefer saving lives, helping others, and maintaining chastity, thereby transforming the bad karma of the body into good karma. Previously, our speech was often deceitful, divisive, flattering, and harsh. Now it becomes truthful, harmonious, honest, and gentle, transforming the bad karma of speech into good karma. Previously, the mind was full of delusion, greed, and anger. Now it is transformed into wisdom, renunciation, and compassion, turning the bad karma of the mind into good karma. Practicing these 10 good karmas creates a foundation for building a joyful and beautiful life for everyone. If many people in the world practice transforming their karma, happiness will naturally come without being sought. Knowing how to transform karma brings peace in the present and joy in the future. Although still within the cycle of samsara, those who know how to stop and transform karma often find themselves in places of happiness and high standing. Conversely, those who indulge in creating bad karma often find themselves in places of suffering and hardship. Observing the world, we see joyful, prosperous places and suffering, poor places. Even within the same country, there are people who are happy and people who are suffering. These observations clearly show the effects of the karma and conditions created by sentient beings. To strengthen the effectiveness of stopping and transforming karma, the fundamental requirement is to take refuge in the 3 jewels and uphold the 5 precepts. Taking refuge in upholding the precepts. Taking refuge sets the direction for our entire life. Why do we practice stopping and transforming karma? Is it not to follow in the Buddha's footsteps, live according to his teachings, and rely on the guidance of the Sangha to elevate our lives? Throughout our lives, we aim towards this goal, without hesitation, courageously overcoming all obstacles until we reach our goal. This embodies the true spirit of taking refuge in the 3 jewels, which means returning and relying on the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. The precepts are a barrier that prevents the 3 karmas from falling into the pit of wrongdoing. Upholding the 5 precepts is the first resting place on the path of stopping karma. Without this resting place, we lack the strength to climb the mountain of virtuous karma safely. The 5 precepts are also the first rung on the ladder of liberation. All safety and transcendence originate from the 5 precepts. Therefore, as Buddhists, we must value and uphold the 5 precepts as someone treasures a precious jewel while passing through a group of thugs. Because taking refuge and upholding the precepts are so important, anyone who wants to become a Buddhist must first vow to take refuge in the 3 jewels and uphold the 5 precepts. Once we are complete in these, we can progress to other practices. Practicing to escape samsara, liberation. We know that karma is the driving force in samsara, and the body, speech, and mind are where karma originates. As long as karma exists, samsara continues. When karma is eradicated, samsara ends. Among the 3 karmas, the karma of the mind is the most crucial because it directs the body and speech. To eradicate karma, we must first cleanse the karma of the mind. Failing to clean the mind's karma while only focusing on the body and speech is like dealing with symptoms rather than the root cause. In the past, Master Huairong of Nanyu often saw Zen Master Dao Yi Mazu meditating on a rock all day. Master Huairong asked, "Why do you meditate?" Dao Yi replied, "To become a Buddha." The next day, Master Huairong brought a brick and started polishing it beside Dao Yi's meditation rock. Dao Yi asked, "Why are you polishing the brick?" Master Huairong replied, "To make a mirror." Dao Yi said, "How can polishing a brick make a mirror?" Master Huairong replied, "How can sitting meditation make you a Buddha?" Dao Yi asked, "Then how should one practice?" Master Huairong responded, "If a cart does not move, should you whip the cart or the ox?" Dao Yi was silent. The cart is the passive element and the ox is the active one. To control the cart, we must focus on the active element. Concentrating on the passive element is futile. The body and speech are passive, the mind is active. Without disciplining the mind, forcing the body to sit upright or the mouth to chant constantly is pointless. True discipline involves monitoring the mind in all postures, walking, standing, sitting, and lying down. By continuously observing the mind, we can stop its karma. Once the mind's karma is still, the body and speech's karma will also become pure. Thus, Buddhist practices such as reciting sutras, chanting mantras, meditating on the Buddha, and sitting in meditation all aim to stop the mind's karma. Senior monks often say, reciting sutras without scattered thoughts brings great merit. Chanting mantras with an undistracted mind brings efficacy. Reciting the Buddha's name with one-pointedness leads to rebirth in the Pure Land. Meditating with a silent mind brings right concentration. These states of non-scattered thoughts, undistracted mind, one-pointedness, and silent mind are all about stopping the mind's karma. Although the methods of practice differ in coarseness and subtlety, They ultimately converge at the point of purifying the mind's karma. From a comprehensive view, all practices harmonize without any conflict. Judging from specific methods, we might see contradictions. Therefore, an enlightened person looks at the ultimate goal, while a limited person only sees the methods. Buddhism is like a house with many doors. Regardless of which door you enter through, once inside, you see the same things. Worrying about why someone enters through another door and not this one, or persuading them to switch doors is the mindset of a beginner in Buddhism. Choose any door that is convenient and strive to enter. You will benefit, is the advice of the enlightened. We only briefly explain the two methods of reciting the Buddha's name in Zen meditation, representing the practices of the Pure Land and Zen schools, for practitioners to follow towards liberation from samsara. The method of Buddha recitation. The method of Buddha recitation can be divided into contemplative Buddha recitation and recitative Buddha recitation. Contemplative Buddha recitation is based on the Contemplation Sutra, while recitative Buddha recitation is based on the Amitabha Sutra. Since recitative Buddha recitation is widely practiced by monks, nuns, and lay Buddhists, we will focus on explaining this method. Every practice taught by the Buddha has both a provisional and an ultimate aspect. The provisional aspect is like the gate, and the ultimate aspect is like the owner of the house. To meet the owner of the house, we must first enter through the gate. Without the gate, it is difficult to enter the house, let alone meet the owner. Thus, the gate is a prerequisite for meeting the owner. Without this condition, our desire is difficult to fulfill. For the method of recitative Buddha recitation to be successful, we must skillfully use its provisional aspect. What is the provisional aspect of recitative Buddha recitation? The provisional aspect of recitative Buddha recitation is using emotions to overcome emotions, or more specifically, using a thorn to remove a thorn. Thus, its provisional aspect is based on attraction and aversion, or dedication of merit. Since we ordinary beings are constantly captivated by worldly pleasures, our daily thoughts are always chasing after these pleasures. To stop these wandering thoughts is difficult. Seeing this, out of compassion, the Buddha preached the Amitabha Sutra, primarily describing the magnificent and beautiful Pure Land, contrasting it with the suffering and filthy world of Saha. This makes beings develop a liking for the Pure Land and a dislike for the Saha world. When attraction and aversion reach their peak, reciting the Buddha's name becomes easy and one-pointed. Without understanding attraction and aversion, reciting the Buddha's name only results in scattered thoughts. Therefore, attraction and aversion are the gates leading to the house of the Pure Land. What should we be attracted to? According to the Amitabha Sutra, the Buddha describes the Pure Land as, beings in this land have no suffering, only receiving happiness. Thus it is called the Pure Land. Moreover, in the Pure Land, there are fences, nets, and rows of trees made of the four jewels: silver, gold, lapis lazuli, and crystal. The ponds are filled with delicious water with 8 virtues, and on the banks are pavilions made of 7 jewels: silver, gold, lapis lazuli, crystal, mother of pearl, red pearls, and carnelian. In the ponds, there are lotus flowers with leaves as large as chariot wheels, emitting radiant light and fragrant scents. There is heavenly music, rain of flowers, and birds singing Dharma words. The Buddha of the Pure Land is named Amitabha, infinite light, infinite life, teaching the Dharma to beings there. The residents are all noble beings, such as hearers and bodhisattvas, who have attained non-retrogression, with some only needing one more life to attain Buddhahood. Therefore, all the people there are of the highest virtue. The Pure Land contains everything we desire: pure joy without suffering, magnificence, abundance of jewels, virtuous teachers and friends, long life, health, freedom and clothing and food and leisure. These images make us yearn for the Pure Land, which is attraction. What should we be averse to? In the latter part of the Amitabha Sutra, the Buddha says, "The Buddhas of the 10 directions praise me, saying, Shakyamuni Buddha can accomplish rare and difficult tasks, living in the evil and filthy world of Saha, filled with the 5 impurities, the impurity of the age, the impurity of views, the impurity of afflictions, the impurity of beings, and the impurity of life. Yet he has attained Buddhahood and teaches the Dharma that is hard to believe." This is the Buddha criticizing the Saha world for its filthiness and suffering, making us develop aversion and distance from it. When both sides are clearly displayed before us, one side is beautiful, magnificent, and joyful, while the other is filthy, ugly, and painful, we develop attraction to the Pure Land and aversion to the Saha world. This is the gate of attraction and aversion leading to the house of the Pure Land. Because of our attraction to the beautiful scenery of the Pure Land and aversion to the filthy Saha world, our minds gradually become indifferent to worldly pleasures. At that point, practicing recitative Buddha recitation becomes successful. However, to reach the peak of attraction and aversion, we must make daily vows of dedication. How to dedicate merit? Dedication means turning our love and attachment from the Saha world towards the Pure Land, developing aversion to the Saha world and affection for the Pure Land. For example, when we see filth and dirt on the streets, we think, the Saha world is truly filthy and disgusting. The Pure Land is adorned with pure jewels and cleanliness, which is highly desirable. I vow to be born in the Pure Land to escape this filth. This is turning filth into purity. When we encounter suffering and distress, we think, the Saha world is full of suffering and dissatisfaction. The Pure Land is completely joyful and fulfilling. I must be averse to this world and aspire to be born in the Pure Land to find true fulfillment. This is turning suffering towards the Pure Land. When we hear harsh and abusive language in the market or village, we think, in the Saha world we often hear harsh words. In the Pure Land, we always hear heavenly music and Dharma words. I am very averse to the Saha world and vow to be born in the Pure Land to hear the Dharma daily. This is turning afflictions towards enlightenment. When friends and brothers betray us, we think, in the Saha world friends are unreliable and cause afflictions. In the Pure Land, everyone is virtuous and worthy of respect. I must aspire to be born there to have virtuous friends. This is turning bad friends towards good friends. When we struggle to make a living, not having enough food or clothes, we think, in the Saha world, we work hard and still lack necessities. In the Pure Land, we have everything we need without effort. I vow to be born in the Pure Land, to have ample food and clothing without hardship. This is turning poverty towards abundance. In summary, in every situation we encounter, we skillfully dedicate our experiences towards the Pure Land, making our aversion to the Saha world stronger and our desire for the Pure Land grow. This is skillfully using the gate of attraction and aversion to enter the house of the Pure Land. What is the ultimate aspect of recitative Buddha recitation? In the Amitabha Sutra, after describing the Pure Land, the Buddha says, if any good man or woman hears of Amitabha Buddha and holds his name, whether for 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, 4 days, 5 days, 6 days, or 7 days, single-mindedly without confusion, at the time of death, Amitabha Buddha and the Holy Assembly will appear before them. When this person dies, their mind will not be disturbed, and they will be born in Amitabha Buddha's Pure Land. To be born in the Pure Land, one must hold the name of Amitabha Buddha, single-mindedly without confusion, from 1 to 7 days. This is because the practitioner has developed strong aversion to the Saha world and deep admiration for the Pure Land, using the 6-character mantra, Namo Amitabha Buddha, as daily practice. Using these 6 characters as a chain to restrain the monkey-like consciousness, forcing it to stay still. Whether walking, standing, sitting or lying down, working or resting, one recites the Buddha's name either silently or aloud depending on the situation. By persistently holding on to the Buddha's name, over time the consciousness will gradually become exhausted and eventually still. This is achieving single-mindedness in Buddha recitation. When the mind is single-pointed, the karma of the mind is purified, and the karma of the body and speech follows suit. This aligns with the phrase, the 3 karmas are always pure, like the Buddhas, reborn in the Western Pure Land. When the 3 karmas are purified, there is no force to pull us back into the cycle of samsara. However, we need to differentiate between single-mindedness and single thought. Reciting the Buddha's name with a single thought leads to rebirth in the Pure Land as a phenomenon. Reciting the Buddha's name to single-mindedness, seeing Amitabha in one's true nature and the Pure Land in one's mind, is the principle. By exclusively reciting the 6-character Amitabha mantra without allowing other thoughts to intrude, using one thought to eliminate all thoughts. We maintain a single thought of reciting the Buddha's name continuously without interruption. This is single thought. Using this thought to seek rebirth in Amitabha Buddha's Pure Land ensures fulfillment, which is the phenomenal aspect of Buddha recitation. Using the 6-character Amitabha mantra as a miraculous medicine to cure all distracted thoughts. Once the illness is cured, the medicine is no longer needed. That is reciting the Buddha's name to the point of no thoughts, leaving only the single mind of true suchness, which is single-mindedness. Reciting the Buddha's name to the point of no thoughts reveals one's true nature as Amitabha, and the mind is the Pure Land, manifesting before one's eyes. Our true nature has always been enlightened, hence the term infinite light. Our true nature has never been born or died, existing beyond time, hence the term infinite life. Our mind has always been pure, but has been defiled by false thoughts, leading us through the 6 realms of samsara. When false thoughts are cleared, only the pure mind remains, which is the Pure Land, hence the saying, when the mind is pure, the land is pure. This is the principle of Buddha recitation, consistent with the spirit of Mahayana Buddhism and in harmony with other practices. Initially, a Buddha reciter must have complete faith in Shakyamuni Buddha's introduction, fully relying on the Pure Land of Amitabha Buddha, focusing the mind there to cultivate attraction and aversion. Without questioning the existence of the Pure Land, simply trusting that Shakyamuni Buddha did not deceive us, and following his teachings, we will surely gain great benefits. With sufficient faith, we diligently recite the Buddha's name day and night, without slackening, regardless of the time, until achieving single-mindedness. Simultaneously, in every encounter, we skillfully dedicate merit towards the Pure Land. A practitioner with full faith, belief, diligent recitation, practice, and frequent dedication vow fulfills the conditions for practicing recitative Buddha recitation. Meditation methods. Meditation practice aims to direct inwardly, clearing away delusional thoughts and calculations. Clearing away delusions involves both provisional and ultimate aspects. Provisional aspects of meditation. The provisional aspect of meditation is using wisdom to overcome emotions. This means looking directly at phenomena, observing and analyzing them to see their temporary and deceptive nature, which leads to detachment and freedom from emotional disturbances. Thus, practitioners work on cultivating a calm and stable mind. There are various types of meditation, including non-Buddhist and Buddhist meditation. Buddhist meditation can be broadly categorized into 2 types: remedial meditation and absolute meditation. Remedial meditation. Depending on the attachment and defilements of sentient beings, the Buddha taught remedial methods, like prescribing medicine for specific illnesses. If a practitioner has a severe condition, a knowledgeable teacher must understand it well to prescribe the appropriate remedial practice. The skillful use of provisional aspects in meditation is necessary for successful practice. The provisional aspect of remedial meditation involves looking directly at phenomena to see their impermanence and understanding that they arise from dependent origination. By using wisdom to observe that all things are impermanent and arise from conditions, and that nothing is lasting or has a true essence, attachment gradually subsides. After that, we apply remedial practices. There are many remedial meditation methods, and practitioners should use the one appropriate for their dominant issue. For instance, those with many delusions should practice counting breaths meditation. Those with strong lust should practice impurity meditation. Those prone to anger should practice loving kindness meditation. And those with ignorance should practice discrimination meditation. In all these remedial methods, practitioners focus on a particular subject for a long time until their minds become stable. Here we will briefly explain a common method: counting breaths meditation. Counting breaths meditation. If someone has many delusions, they should practice counting breaths meditation. This is the most common meditation practice among meditators because delusion is a common issue for all sentient beings. To control delusion, we must first regulate our breath, which is essential for our life. Regulating the breath is the first step towards health and mental stability, which is necessary for progressing in deeper meditation practices. Counting breaths meditation is the first practice in the 6 wonderful Dharma methods. These 6 methods are counting breaths, following the breath, stopping, observing, returning, and purifying. Practitioners must progress from the coarse to the subtle, fully practicing all 6 methods to achieve complete results. These methods are wonderfully effective in stopping all delusions, hence called the 6 wonderful Dharma methods. Here is a brief explanation of the 6 methods. 1. Counting breaths. After sitting upright in the correct meditation posture, practitioners use the method of counting breaths to stabilize the mind. Inhaling deeply and exhaling completely, count 1. Repeat until reaching 10, then start over at 1. If the mind becomes distracted and loses count, start again from 1. Focus closely on the number and breath, adjusting immediately if the mind wanders. When the mind can count without distraction for half an hour to an hour, it is temporarily stable. Then, move to the next method. 2. Following the breath. Stop counting and simply follow the breath. Be aware of each inhalation and exhalation, noting whether the breath is long or short, warm or cool. Follow the breath like a creditor tracking a debtor. When the mind remains focused on the breath without distraction, it is stable, and the next method can be applied. 3. Stopping. Stop following the breath and let the mind rest at the nostrils, observing the breath going in and out. The mind stays focused without distraction, constantly aware of the breath. When the mind is stable and undisturbed, proceed to the next method. 4. Observing. Instead of resting, start observing the breath. The breath comes in and goes out, indicating impermanence. The body relies on the breath to live, so it is also impermanent. The breath is fleeting and the body is ephemeral. Observing this leads to the understanding that the body and breath are not truly existent. This dissolves the attachment to the body as real and enduring. Move to the next method. 5. Returning. Reflect on the mind that observes. Where is it, and what is its nature? Looking closely, we see it has no form or location. Constantly reflecting on the observing mind leads to a still and stable mind. Move to the final method. 6. Purifying. Let go of observing and simply remain with a clear and pure mind. No delusions, no drowsiness, only a serene and bright mind. Living constantly with this clear and bright mind is the ultimate goal of the 6 wonderful Dharma methods. At this point, the arising and ceasing of thoughts dissolve, and delusive karma created by the mind is purified, leaving nothing to pull the practitioner back into samsara. Skillful application of the 6 wonderful Dharma methods allows practitioners to escape the cycle of birth and death. However, during practice, many difficulties and strange experiences may arise, requiring guidance from experienced teachers to progress smoothly. Absolute meditation. This method of meditation was transmitted by Shakyamuni Buddha at Vulture Peak, where he held up a flower, and Mahakashyapa smiled in response, receiving the mind seal transmission. This lineage continued through the 28 Indian patriarchs, with Bodhidharma bringing it to China, where he transmitted it to Huike, eventually spreading to Vietnam, Korea, Japan, and continuing to the present day. When Bodhidharma arrived in China, he boldly declared this method as teaching outside of the scriptures, directly pointing to the human mind, seeing one's true nature, becoming a Buddha. Through this declaration, we see the absolute nature of this meditation. This meditation can be approached in 2 ways, from emptiness to form, or from form to emptiness. From emptiness to form. Initially understand that all phenomena are false and impermanent, and then realize the true mind, which is the absolute, unborn, and undying reality. Living with this realization is achieving the path. From form to emptiness. Initially recognize the true mind and then see all phenomena as false and temporary. Constantly living with one's true nature is seeing one's true nature and becoming a Buddha. Practitioners use the wisdom of prajnaparamita to see that phenomena arise from conditions. Their nature is emptiness, they have no true essence, and are only provisional combinations. Observing that these provisional forms have an empty nature, and that emptiness allows for provisional existence, we understand that birth and death are merely the combination and separation of conditions. Since birth and death have no true essence, nothing in the world is truly real. Constantly using wisdom to see this, we understand that all phenomena are like illusions and bubbles. Their true nature is emptiness. This is why the gate of Zen is called the gate of emptiness. Relying on the wisdom of prajnaparamita, We enter the house and see the owner achieving success. From seeing the provisional forms, we realize the truth, eliminating the ignorance of many lifetimes and living with perfect wisdom, achieving enlightenment and liberation. Mistaking provisional forms for reality and ignoring the true nature is ignorance. Provisional forms are born and die, but the true essence never does. Realizing and living with the true essence is liberation from samsara. This is directly pointing to the human mind, seeing one's true nature, becoming a Buddha. The true nature is the inherent reality within all beings, not created through practice. Realizing this inherent nature and constantly living with it is seeing one's true nature and becoming a Buddha, clearly manifested here. However, this teaching is considered a method without a method because it goes beyond duality and remedies. Therefore, it is said, the Dharma has no fixed method, Phop Bon Vo Phop. It does not adhere to any form. So there is no specific entry, dwelling, or exit as in other meditation methods. Reading all the books on this meditation, we find no sequential practice methods. Thus, do not seek a method. Instead, use the sword of wisdom to clear the forest of attachments, and the treasure will be revealed. Searching for a method will only lead to disappointment. Let's recall the conversation between Huike and Bodhidharma. My mind is not at peace. Please pacify it for me. Bring me your mind, and I will pacify it for you. I cannot find my mind. I have already pacified it for you. Huike understood the essence. Reading this story, we may feel lost, as there seems to be no method of pacifying the mind. Bodhidharma's response appears both real and unreal, leaving us puzzled. Yet Huike grasped the essence immediately. This indeed is a rare and extraordinary matter. During meditation, disruptive thoughts arise, causing the mind to become unsettled. Seeking a method to calm the mind becomes essential. Hence, hearing about a knowledgeable meditation teacher, one packs up and sets off to seek the method of calming the mind. Learning one method or another to calm the mind ultimately amounts to using heat to drive away cold or using light to chase away darkness. All such dualistic methods are deceptive and unreal. Patriarch Bodhidharma did not teach this way. He simply said, "Bring your mind here, and I will calm it for you." When Huike looked directly at his restless mind, it disappeared without a trace. Huike had to admit, "I cannot find my mind." Bodhidharma then said, "I have calmed your mind for you." Huike immediately saw the way. For ages we have believed that the thinking, restless mind is real. Today, when we search for it and cannot find its trace, we realize it is empty. Knowing its emptiness means it no longer has the power to disturb us. When it arises, we do not follow it, and the mind is naturally calm. The reason our minds are unsettled is because when thoughts arise, we follow them, from one thought to another, without stopping. Now when thoughts arise, we know they are empty, and do not follow them. They naturally disappear. This is truly the wonderful method of calming the mind. Without relying on any method or appearance, simply looking directly at delusive thoughts makes them vanish like clouds and smoke. This is direct pointing without relying on provisional methods. No one would foolishly chase after illusions, nor stubbornly try to eliminate them. Just knowing they are illusions and not following them is enough. This is the essence of Bodhidharma's method of calming the mind. A monk asked Zen master Zongmi, Huifeng, "What is cultivation?" The master replied, "Knowing illusion is cultivation." It is very simple yet comprehensive. Knowing illusions and not following them, the mind naturally becomes still. This is the wonderful method of this meditation. Although it is called cultivation, it is not really cultivation because there is no elimination or suppression. It is simply using wisdom to see through falseness, and the mind becomes naturally still, which we temporarily call cultivation. This method of non-cultivation starts with wisdom and culminates in living with the unified mind. Zen Master Yunyan of the Song dynasty said, "Before I was 30, I saw mountains as mountains and rivers as rivers. After being taught by a wise friend, I saw that mountains were not mountains and rivers were not rivers. Now, having reached the ultimate realization, I see mountains as mountains and rivers as rivers." Before he turned 30, the master's perception was like that of any ordinary person, seeing mountains as real mountains, rivers as real rivers, and people as real people. After being taught by a wise friend, he realized that mountains and rivers were not real, but were illusory combinations of conditions. With an empty nature, he opened his wisdom eye and saw everything as illusions. Now, with all attachments and defilements completely eradicated, he sees mountains and rivers as rivers again, because he has transcended all attachments and distinctions. This truly is the ultimate achievement on the path of Zen. We will see this method more concretely through the dialogue between the supervisor Tri Vien and Zen master Yuan Guan. When household robbers are difficult to control, what should be done? Knowing they are not true enemies. After knowing this, what next? Banish them to the land of no birth. Isn't the land of no birth a place for the body and mind to rest? A dead land cannot harbor dragons. What is a living land that harbors dragons? Waves do not form despite the rising tide. When the pond tilts and the mountain collapses, what then? The master stepped off the meditation seat, grabbed the supervisor and said, "Don't let the corner of the kasaya get wet." Household robbers refer to delusive thoughts brought in by the 6 bandits, the senses. Knowing that these thoughts are false, they cannot harm us. Instead, we have subdued them. After recognizing them, they naturally subside, leading to the state of no birth. But this should not be seen as the ultimate state. One should not be submerged in it. It is necessary to awaken fully, remaining constantly aware and effective without being disturbed. This is truly the living land that harbors dragons. At this point, even if the sky falls and the earth crumbles, the mind of the practitioner remains unmoved, akin to not letting the corner of the kasaya get wet. The success of this method is not in gaining miraculous powers or magical transformations, but in remaining unaffected by the 8 winds: fame, disgrace, praise, blame, gain, loss, pleasure, and pain. Fame, not swayed by acquiring wealth. Disgrace, remaining indifferent during losses. Praise, not feeling agitated when humiliated. Blame, not feeling elated when praised. Gain, remaining calm when criticized. Loss, not changing demeanor when scorned. Pleasure, staying serene during suffering. Pain, staying undisturbed during joy. In every situation, the mind remains stable and unshaken, representing the ultimate success of the meditation practitioner. From form to emptiness, by recognizing one's true nature, one sees that all phenomena are illusory forms arising from conditions. The true nature is the real form without form, transcending both conditions and nature, remaining unchanged whether in enlightenment or delusion, beyond permanence or impermanence. This luminous, ever-present awareness is inherent in all beings. Recognizing it is called being a Buddha. Let's listen to the dialogue between Zen Master Dan and Patriarch Baijan. I wish to understand the Buddha. How should I proceed? You are like a man riding an ox in search of an ox. After understanding this, what then? Like a man riding an ox returning home. How should I maintain it? Like a shepherd guarding the ox, not letting it graze on others' crops. Dan understood the essence. We all possess Buddha nature but do not dare to recognize it, constantly seeking outside, like a man riding an ox looking for an ox. Recognizing one's true nature means no longer searching, like a man riding an ox returning home. But understanding is not the end. One must diligently guard and nurture it, like a shepherd with a rod guiding an ox. This is the essence of practice for those who have recognized their true nature. Later, Zen Master Dan taught, "Why do you all come to Dan seeking something? If you want to become Buddhas, you are already Buddhas. Why carry the Buddha to the neighbor's house to seek it, exhausting yourselves in vain? Like a thirsty deer chasing a mirage, when will it quench its thirst?" Everyone has a priceless gem, shining from the eyes, illuminating mountains, rivers, and vegetation. Hearing from the ears, discerning all sounds, continuously shining day and night, known as the radiance of samadhi. We do not recognize this, instead identifying with the 4 elements body, which is a construct dependent on internal and external conditions. Without these conditions, it collapses, like a person carrying a heavy load over a flimsy bridge, fearing a misstep. Through Dan's teachings, we see that Buddha nature is inherently within us. Recognizing it does not require seeking outside. The more we seek, the more exhausted we become. Buddha nature is fully manifest in our 6 senses. We need only to look inward. Unfortunately, we constantly identify with the false body of the 4 elements. This body relies on internal and external conditions, without which it perishes immediately, like a precarious crossing of a flimsy bridge fraught with anxiety. Recognizing the unchanging true nature, all fears and anxieties vanish. What can harm this true nature? This is nirvana in the present world. A monk asked Zen master Shigui, "What is the pearl in Kshitigarbha's hand? Do you have it in your hand?" "I do not understand. Do not deceive the assembly," the master recited. Not knowing the treasure of one's own house, following others to chase external dust, running at midday to escape one's shadow, a man in the mirror loses his head. In summary, recognizing one's intrinsic Buddha nature is the key to overcoming delusion and realizing enlightenment. The journey is not about gaining anything new but realizing and living in accordance with one's true nature, transcending duality and false distinctions. Sentient beings continuously chase after external phenomena, forgetting their true nature. They seek the pearl in the hand of Bodhisattva Kshitigarbha, forgetting that they already possess a pearl in their own hand. This pearl follows us like a shadow follows a form. Even though we tumble through the 6 realms and wander in the 3 worlds, the pearl is always present in our pocket. In our ignorance, we forget it, much like Yen Na, who saw his head and face reflected in a mirror, and when he covered the mirror, the reflection disappeared, causing him to panic and exclaim, "I have lost my head." He then ran around crazily, clutching his head and shouting, "I have lost my head." We are all like this. Daily we chase after delusive thoughts, thinking that having them means having a self. When delusive thoughts cease, we panic and exclaim, "I have lost myself." Delusive thoughts arise and cease suddenly with no root or origin, yet we take them as our real self. When delusive thoughts cease, our faculties of seeing, hearing, understanding, and knowing remain intact, yet we say, "I have lost myself." Who is the one who knows they have lost themselves? Recognizing the master within prevents us from being deceived by external phenomena. Zen Master Fayan said, "I have something that is neither ordinary nor holy, neither wrong nor right. When the time comes, it responds naturally." Our true master is the absolute reality, beyond dualities of ordinary and holy, right and wrong. Even though there is no discriminatory thinking, when encountering situations, understanding is clear and immediate. This master has never been born nor died, hence it is called the indestructible Dharma body. Because it is unborn and undying, it is true and eternal, without any form, often likened to empty space. From the perspective of the Dharma body, mind, and all phenomena are seen as temporary and false, without even a hair's breadth of reality, thus described as like bubbles, shadows, dew, and lightning. Living with this master in all activities, walking, standing, sitting, lying, is practicing the meditation of no birth. Zen Master Shanyan sat alone on a rock, occasionally calling out, "Master," then answering, "Yes." He would say, "Be alert, don't let others deceive you." This self-call and self-response might seem like a playful act, but it is a way to remind oneself not to forget the master. Do not be deceived by external phenomena, always staying alert and bright with your eternal master. This truly is the timeless principle for those who know how to live in their true self. Knowing how to return to oneself is like returning home, reaching the treasure house, like the prodigal son being given his inheritance by his father, like nirvana, enlightenment, and liberation. All these different terms point to the same thing, returning to oneself. This is the meaning of the phrase, "Above the heavens and below the heavens, I alone am honored." Because returning to oneself means all external affairs are resolved. Does this meditation method have fixed practice times? This meditation method does not emphasize fixed practice times, only adapting to convenient circumstances, but focuses on mindfulness. In all times and activities, walking, standing, sitting, lying, working, resting, one must clearly see each thought and not follow it, or live constantly with the master, not being carried away by external conditions. Any moment of forgetting mindfulness is considered a fault of negligence. Hence it is said, walking, standing, talking, keeping silent, chopping wood, gathering vegetables, stoking the fire, cooking, all are meditation. Those who practice this meditation may appear relaxed and leisurely, but in reality they are meticulously mindful of each thought. This meditation is the foundation for becoming a Buddha or patriarch. One day Prime Minister Wang visited the Zen monastery of Patriarch Linji. He saw the numerous monks and asked Linji, "With so many monks, do you teach them to recite sutras and practice seated meditation?" "No. What do you teach them?" "I teach them to become Buddhas and patriarchs." This is a subtle and profound practice within the mind, not related to external forms. Patriarch Linji also said, "Fools laugh at me, the wise understand me." Ordinary fools cannot comprehend this method, but the wise can fully grasp it. This method has no levels or stages, only living with the true nature. True nature has no form, so practitioners find it hard to see their progress. Therefore, it requires a steadfast determination to hope for success one day. However, some people who superficially learn this meditation speak grandly but never actually practice self-discipline. They use the words of the Buddha and patriarchs to cover their own faults. Such people are thieves in the Dharma and commit serious offenses. Clarification. Reading about the absolute meditation above, many readers might question, Buddhism advocates non-self, but here it talks about returning to the master within, which implies a self contradicting Buddhist teachings. In the Buddhist scriptures, the Buddha criticizes the eternalist views of non-Buddhists, but here it says, the master is eternal and unchanging. Isn't this similar to the eternalist views criticized by the Buddha? Let's address these doubts one by one. Buddhism advocates non-self regarding the five aggregates. The Brahmins considered feeling, perception, formation, and consciousness as the self, but the Buddha pointed out that they are impermanent and thus not the self. The Buddha divided these into 5 categories and asked, if you consider feeling as the self, what about perception, formation, and consciousness? The same applies to the others. Taking the 5 aggregates as the self is a serious mistake. These 5 are conditioned, impermanent, and taking them as me leads to the cycle of birth and death. Therefore, those who consider the 5 aggregates as the self are in ignorance, and the Buddha opposed this view, teaching non-self. The master mentioned in this meditation also pertains to the 5 aggregates, but is the unborn, undying essence within them. This essence only fully reveals itself when feeling, perception, formation, and consciousness are still. It does not depart from these aggregates, but when they are active, it cannot be found. This master is the tranquil, knowing essence that has never been disturbed or corrupted. We can verify this when sitting in meditation or alone in a quiet place. Feeling, perception, formation, and consciousness may be still, yet we remain aware, our senses active as usual. What is responsible for this awareness if not the ever-present, tranquil, knowing essence within? Therefore, talking about the master here does not contradict the Buddhist principle of non-self. Only through true practice can we clearly see this. We should not get stuck in theoretical debates. The eternalist views of non-Buddhists also base their notions of eternity on the 5 aggregates. The 5 aggregates are impermanent, and considering the impermanent as eternal leads to the Buddha's criticism. The master mentioned here is the real essence that has never moved or changed beyond form and duality. Calling it eternal and unchanging is a provisional expression. The absolute reality cannot be adequately described with dualistic language. Recognizing this knowing essence helps us understand its eternity. Anything with form, subject to birth and death, is impermanent. The knowing essence transcends form and birth and death, so how can it be impermanent? Without this essence, what would achieve our hatship or Buddhahood when feeling, perception, formation, and consciousness are still? Hence, talking about the eternal master here does not contradict the Buddhist teaching on impermanence, and does not fall into the eternalist views of non-Buddhists. It is the essential teaching of Buddhism. Conclusion: the topics we have presented have been condensed into a very narrow scope, akin to covering an elephant with a basket, making it difficult to avoid misunderstandings and omissions. We hope that readers grasp the key points of each issue. For further details, they should refer to other Buddhist scriptures or seek guidance from monks, nuns, or knowledgeable friends. Reviewing the essential keys, we can summarize. 1. The Buddha. The Buddha is an enlightened being who has attained liberation from birth and death. This is his fundamental position. We should not alter, embellish, or force him away from this fundamental position. 2. Buddhist teachings. These are the teachings that point out the truths. The truth in phenomena is cause and effect. The truth in the formation and combination of things is dependent origination. The silent truth in the essence is emptiness or Buddha nature. 3. Learning Buddhism. Learning Buddhism means progressing on the path of enlightenment, understanding and judging the truths taught by the Buddha, and applying this understanding to human life. Successfully realizing these truths requires the clear-sighted wisdom of prajna. 4. Practicing Buddhism. Practicing Buddhism involves applying the understood truths to daily life, removing all the attachments and delusions that bind our minds, bringing peace in the present and perpetually in the future. Furthermore, practicing Buddhism means transcending the cycle of birth and death, freeing oneself from all limitations, and becoming a liberated and autonomous person. With these essential points firmly grasped, it is like holding a bright torch on the path home, ensuring that one does not get lost. The value of Buddhist teachings lies in knowing to practice, not just to speak. The deeper the practice, the higher the appreciation of the value of Buddhism. Knowing just to speak is like presenting a variety of foods while remaining hungry, or being a bank teller who counts money all day but leaves empty-handed. We hope that readers of this book do not end up in such a state. Thank you for listening. If you found this video helpful, please share it with those who might benefit from it. Don't forget to leave your thoughts in the comment section below. Hit the like button, follow and turn on the notification bell. This is how you can show your support for me. Once again, thank you very much and see you in the next videos.